going together. So, yeah, thank you for rescheduling with us, and I think that we'll dive in here and get started. So I'm going to essentially ask the questions that Councilmember Carolyn Schweiger would have asked you. She kind of gave me. She's asking, we're trying to keep it as consistent as possible, asking each of our candidates the same questions. So first one here I have for her is from her rather. Please share with me any leadership positions you currently have or held until recently. So what have you been a part of?
Basically? I have 40 years experience with law enforcement. I have been a training officer with one of those departments where I would go and actually do the background checks on a possibility of new people that was on the list. Now, I know that Mccandless PD will do that, not me. Mm-hmm. And all I want to do is recommend to the department the best qualified person from the list of the civil service that they take, nationally 1 out of 3. And I would want the best qualified person to start on the job. It's up to Mccandless PD and the chief, I'm sure, to represent the department to the best of their ability and the citizens of Mccandless Township.
Fantastic, thank you. What values would you bring to a position on the personnel board? And how would you say like your values would help you accomplish things on the board?
I believe that I'm knowledgeable to select and pass on to council or Mccandless PD the best person that I feel from the results that the Mccandless PD will pass on to us. I would believe that they will pass on what they found out about the candidate, because I used to go and do the past employment of the candidate, the neighbors, check to make sure there was no domestic violence and things like that going on, credit check to make sure that they're responsible and that they're not behind and maybe have a tendency, well, I need money, maybe I can do this and that, you know what I mean? And the whole thing, are they tardy? Are they late for work? Are they absent from work a lot? Those are all things that I'm sure that the police department will do and send on to us as to what they found out from their interviews and their investigations.
Great, thank you. And just overall, last one from Carolyn, why do you want to be appointed on the personnel board overall? Is it?
Well, I live in Mccandless now for 3.5 years. I like the community. I always like to be active and involved in the community. Where I came from, Ben Avon, I used to work there on the police department part-time, and I was active there at the time. And I lived there for many, many years, and I knew all the officers there. And you have a tendency to know who's a good officer, who could be a bad officer. And that's what I would bring to the town of Mccandless, my recommendation, and that would be their final decision to make.
Great, thank you. I'll kind of pass the baton to Mark here, see what questions you'd like to ask.
Jim, thank you so much for applying for the position, and more importantly, thank you so much for your past service to our communities here in Western Pennsylvania.
Thank you for your comments. And Merry Christmas, and have a safe and happy and healthy New Year.
You too. I'll try my best.
Okay.
I got a few questions for you.
Yes, sir.
What do you see as the future of the Mccandless Police Department?
I think you have a very good police department. I tell you what, I'm out and about and I see your police cars quite often. That tells me something. That tells me that they're not in the station constantly, that they're out patrolling, wanting to be seen by the public, letting the public see them. And I think that helps to preserve crime and so forth in the community. And I think people like, I think people like to see the police car. Sorry about that. Okay,
That's okay.
were you able to hear that?
Yes, I was. Thank you.
Okay.
What do you think your learning curve would be if you are appointed to this board, and how fast can you?
I not hearing that. How fast?
How fast can you come up to speed on items such as policies, codes, and procedures?
I know that you pay your department very well. I do have contracts because I do collect contracts. Okay. And I think that a codes and that I can learn real quick. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do. Are you referring to codes of the municipality?
Yes.
Yes, I can learn those and comply and use those tools to help make the decision of recommending a person for the position and even for the promotions of officer, except the chief. I know that's what the qualification says in the code of the personnel board.
How have you handled ethical dilemmas in the past as they relate to hiring and interviewing candidates? Or can you relate to such a situation?
Ethics?
Ethical. How have you handled ethical dilemmas in the past as they relate to hiring and interviewing candidates?
I have no problems with male, female, or race, if that is what you're referring to. I
Okay, Jim.
believe in every large department, there should be a female on, and I know you do have one on. I observe things and, listen to things. I don't have a trouble recommending anyone who is qualified to do the job and represent the department as well as the citizens of this municipality.
Jim, the last question I have for you is, what is your approach to handling conflicts and disagreements between board members?
Would you repeat that, please?
Sure. What is your approach to handling conflicts and disagreements between board members?
Between the workers?
Between board members. If you were to be part of the board.
Oh, okay. No, they are definitely entitled to their own opinion. If they feel that somebody is more qualified than the one that I feel, they're entitled to their decision. I would just recommend and say why I feel this person is more qualified than the other person. I don't want to play any favoritism. I don't want to play any political reason, politics. I just would want the best person for the position that they are applying for, and I would show my results why I feel they should have the position. And I will not argue with somebody that, feels differently. They're entitled to their own opinion and they can state why they feel that way. And I would go home and not be mad at them or anything like that.
Nick, that wraps up the 4 questions I had.
Great. Great. I think that that's all that we had for you here today, Jim. Like I said, this recording of this interview will be shared with Councilmember Schweiger. I believe that we look to make a decision on the board appointment within the next 3 weeks or so, and we will reach out to you one way or another. So
very good. I appreciate it, and I feel that I can be a good service to this town.
absolutely. Thank you.
And
Thanks.
I'm not going to be mad if I'm not selected, but I would like to have the position, a chance to do that.
Okay. So Amy, we're going to start the interviews. Mark Laporte's going to go first and ask his questions, and then I'll follow up with my questions. Okay. Okay, is Mark there?
I'm here, but I don't see Amy. So.
Really? I see you.
There you are. There you are. Gotcha. Maybe you have to talk. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
I have 4 questions that I'm going to go through. So thank you so much for taking the time. I'll just get right into it. What do you see as the future of the Mccandless Police Department?
Well, I don't think the Mccandless Police Force needs an overhaul. Let's start with that. I think they've been doing a great job. But like anything else, they can benefit from continuous learning and growth and continuous improvement. So I think that we should continue to do some of the training that Chief Hawk has been doing in the last year and a half. I think that's going to be really important as the face of the township, as the face of the town of Mccandless changes. You know, we have more businesses, we have different kinds of crimes. So the police force needs to do all of the things that they have been doing in the past. And now they need to be skilled at things like cybersecurity crimes, which, you know, didn't exist in the past. So continuing the training and really just continuing to do the good job they've been doing.
Thank you. What do you think well, this is interesting. What do you think your learning curve would be if you are appointed to this board? And how fast can you come up to speed on items such as policies, codes, and procedures?
Well, I'll start by saying there's always learning to be done. I'm a big fan of continuous learning, but as it relates to this board, my learning curve was very steep when I joined 3 years ago. I think it would be much less steep than other candidates who are potentially interviewing for this role. However, like I said, there's still things to learn. One of the ways that I was learning about the police recently was being part of the Citizens Police Academy. So I think that was really useful to learn about what the police do on a daily basis. But I've been on the board 3 years. I've been the chair for the past year or so. So as it relates to board specific kinds of responsibilities, probably a more flat learning curve.
Thank you. How have you handled ethical dilemmas in the past as they relate to hiring and interviewing candidates?
You know, we had at the place that I worked most before the job that I have now, we had an interview candidate who misrepresented something on his resume. And the hiring manager still wanted to bring that person on board. And I said, absolutely, no way, no how. I mean, that's like a hard stop for me. If you are coming into an organization being untruthful about who you are and what you have to offer, we can expect more of the same from you. So I think, you know, moral and ethical dilemmas are tricky because people have different perspectives, but that was a situation where you just don't cross the line. You know, dishonesty for me is a hard line when it comes to bringing in candidates to an organization.
Thank you. My last question is, what is your approach to handling conflicts and disagreements between board members?
I think listening goes a long way. I'm a big fan of just letting people kind of talk it out and being the facilitator that allows people to have the time to state their point of view. Most disagreements stem from different expectations or sometimes misunderstandings. And so I like to kind of step back and not always weigh in with my own opinions. Certainly I have opinions, and on a small board like this, you would need to offer your opinion. You can't be just a facilitator. But if there were disagreements with other board members, I would see my role as the chair currently to be that person who allows the parties who are disagreeing with each other to speak their mind and really give that space to each person.
Well, before I hand it over to Carolyn, I probably won't have another opportunity to talk to you. I just want to wish you a Merry Christmas to you and your family, and a Happy New Year. So, Carolyn?
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, so my questions, which I've asked for, these were for all the interviews. I would like you to share with me any leadership positions you currently have or had till recently.
Well, I'm currently the chair of this board, so we'll start with that. I have been a leader at my jobs. I've been a manager for several years, but to me, being a manager and being a leader are not necessarily synonymous. So I've been a leader of the teams that report to me, but also a leader to the executives that I support in the different roles that I've had in HR over the years. And, sometimes that's coaching and advice, and other times it's more direct. I was also in several different leadership roles, actually, in the nonprofit world. I've been on the board of Pittsburgh Cares for the past 7 years. I was secretary, then vice president, and most recently president. And my term as president there ended September this past year.
Great, thank you. Let me flip my paper over. Next question. What values do you bring to this position that will help you accomplish things for the personnel board?
Well, I think, I'm professionally certified as a facilitator, as a coach. I've actually designed and led leadership development programs. So I think that ability to facilitate meetings, it's not rocket science, but it does hopefully help with meetings, being able to determine processes and lead people through those processes to make decisions. I have experience. I actually worked as a recruiter when I worked at PNC for some time. So being able to go through the selection process and determine who the best candidate was, obviously that's useful in a role such as this. I was responsible for filling several executive level roles at my last organization. So, working with a lot of sometimes difficult personalities and trying to get to were they just trying to sell you on their skills, or did they really have those skills, and trying to weed out who's a really good interviewer from who's really the best candidate. So I would say all of those things would come into play.
Okay, great. Thank you. So you've already mentioned what your accomplishments are. Last question. Why do you want this to be on the board again?
Well, I think first and foremost, I want to continue the momentum we've starting. As I mentioned before, I had a really steep learning curve when I started this 3 years ago. There's a lot to learn, surprisingly, about this role, about how the town operates, about how the police force operates. So I think it would take someone else a significant amount of time to get up to speed. And I feel like we're just starting to accomplish things. So we just did the selections for sergeant. We're starting to make some progress with the selection process for new officers. And we badly need new officers in the town of Mccandless. In my opinion, we have actually fewer officers, if you count that school resource officers are now at the school, than we did 10 years ago. And the town is larger in terms of number of citizens, number of businesses. So we need to get going and get some new officers in so that the town can be safe and secure and well supported by our police force. And then I think secondarily, I think it's important to give back. You know, I'm trying to teach my kids it's not just about giving money. We do that, but it's about giving your time and your skills. And, you know, when I first interviewed for this 3 years ago, I said to the town council, you know, I have experience in HR, and I think that that might be useful in this role. And 3 years later, I still feel the same.
I like that. Okay, great. So that was all of my questions. I don't have any others. I don't believe Mark does either. And that is the end of your interview. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time, Amy, to do this.
Oh,
And
you're very welcome.
you know, Nick will follow up and let you know, well, you'll hear from the results in the January meeting then.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time on this as well.
Thanks,
Thank
Amy.